What's going on, everybody? I do apologize right off the bat that this review is coming out later than normal, but I am ready now to talk about and to discuss the latest chapter, 159 of Tokyo Ghoul Rize. And these past 2 to 3 chapters just have been phenomenal. I have loved just having Rize come back, whether it be, this manifestation within Kaneki's mind, or as this recent chapter is kind of insinuating, this might in fact be the actual Rize being inside Kaneki's fantasy world. Whoever it may be, I am so glad we had her back these past couple of chapters, because even though she was being an utter savage and just pointing out all of the mistakes that Kaneki has been making, she eventually led Kaneki to something positive. And I love the decision that Kaneki ended up making by the ending of this chapter, realizing that all of the tragedy in his life has led him to very happy moments. It's led him to meet the people in his life that he loves and cherishes. And even that last couple pages, when he jumps into the water, looks back to Rize, and then just goes swimming through the endless line of the Torii gates, which basically symbolize him going from a profane state of mind to a sacred state of mind. So if he does make his way through these gates and eventually out of Dragon, this is going to be a big moment for Kaneki's character, and he's ready to confront the sins of his past. He's no longer running away. He's not creating another persona to hide away from his problems. He is ready to confront them head on. And I am really looking forward to this new perspective that we are about to get from Kaneki's character. So let's dive right into the blood-drenched water of this week's latest chapter, chapter 159. And the title for this week's chapter is just the letter S. And we've had other chapters in the past that have been single letters before, or as short as the letter S. But many people might be wondering, it's like, I wonder why Ashita decided just to entitle this week's latest chapter just the letter S. And after rereading this chapter a few more times, I think I might have cracked the code, and this might be why it is entitled the letter S. I'm so sorry, guys. I had to do that. But to get back on track, the beginning of chapter 159, we see Kaneki regaining consciousness and waking up right next to Rize. And this actually goes to explain why we got those blacked out panels on the last page of 158. Kaneki was not succumbing to the negativity and the darkness and just the persuasiveness of Rize when she was telling him not to do nothing. Kaneki was just basically blacking out, and in this first page, we see him regaining consciousness, waking up on the patio of the Japanese abode, just lying right next to Rize. And I love the fact that Rize just decides to bring up old memories and starts asking the big questions to Kaneki. Do you remember when we first met? Do you remember what we exchanged under those steel beams? And I'm sitting here like, oh, Rize, we will never forget the first time you and Kaneki met. As Rize is asking all these questions to Kaneki, the sky opens up and we see a bombardment of bodies falling from the sky.
It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Amen.
Men, women, CCG operatives, and ghouls themselves, all of these bodies start to descend from the heavens, yet Kaneki cannot bring his eyes up to look upon them. And Rize noticed this right away. She looked at Kaneki and said, "Not interested in looking, huh? It doesn't matter to you if others die because it's not your responsibility." Rize even goes on to explain that because of this ideology, Kaneki and Rize are exactly the same. They are willing to trample anything and anyone that is in their path as long as that means they can get to what they want, because in the end, both of them are very, very selfish. And I do really like that that gets brought up multiple times throughout this conversation with Rize. But in this chapter in particular, there's a lot of evidence building up that this construction within Kaneki's mind of Rize might actually be the real personality of Rize seeping through, because not only do we get a lot of information with Rize and the Washu clan, which she's basically saying that, like, being a pure ghoul within that household, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I was seen as inferior. The only destiny I had in that house was basically being a seedbed, just breeding for children. And I desperately wanted to get out of there. So I used Furita to make my escape, but in the end, I ended up getting divided into little bitty pieces and then locked away inside little coffins. And I love that little piece of dialogue in the imagery of the Ogai, which is basically stating that little pieces of Rize existed within these little coffins and they were just clawing to get out. That's the imagery I'm getting from this, and that is just really cool wordplay, playing off with the images very, very well. And because Kaneki ate and devoured all of the Ogai, that means he ate all of those little pieces of Rize's Kakaho. And since he did that, all of those little pieces added up to the point to where now we have Rize appearing within Kaneki's fantasy world within the dragon state. And that is big evidence right here that a lot of people can make, stating that this construction of Rize that we are seeing in this chapter might actually be the real personality of Rize seeping through. And whether it is real or fake, I am just really glad that we had Rize in these last couple chapters. Because Rize is the only character that can bombard Kaneki with question after question after question, peeling back his layers to really find the root, the real drive of what makes this character do the things that he does. And she's asking him a whole bunch of questions like, do you do what you do to be a hero, to be a martyr in your friends' eyes? Do you do it to be the villain? Do you do it for friends and other people? Why do you do the things you do, Kaneki? What drives you forward? And eventually, Kaneki just falls down to his knees. He essentially breaks, and we just have this one piece of dialogue where he states, I just wanted to be needed by someone. That line alone can summarize Kaneki's character throughout the entire series of Tokyo Ghoul. Every single persona that Kaneki has shifted into throughout the course of the series has shared this common flaw, this common ideology. Black-haired Kaneki, white-haired Kaneki, Rize, the Black Reaper, and even now, as the One-Eyed King, they did what they did because they wanted to feel needed by someone else. And from this point until the very end of the chapter, Kaneki starts to realize that ever since he got turned into a ghoul, his life hasn't just been filled with tragedy, sadness, and despair 100% of the time. There are good and happy moments within there as well, and he would not have those good and happy moments unless he went through the tragic times in order to achieve those good friends and those good memories during that time. Like, he even reflects back to drinking his first cup of coffee at Enteku thanks to Mr. Yoshimura. That moment right there really broadened his horizons and really opened himself up to the world of the ghouls. And once he did that, he became a lot of friends with some ghouls. Tsukiyama, Hinami, Toka, Nishiki, just to name a few. Even after becoming Rize Sasaki, he did not stop befriending ghouls. He even started making friends and acquaintances on the CCG side of things. And when you combine those two sides of humans and ghouls, of Arima and Eto, they chose Kaneki to take up the mantle of the One-Eyed King. So that right there goes to show that he was needed by both sides, by humans and ghouls. And I think the cherry on top of all of this is the fact that Toka married him. She wants to spend the rest of her life with Kaneki. She wants to spend it with him. So he is in fact needed, but he had to go through all of this tragedy and despair of being turned into a ghoul to actually come to realize all of the good things he has in his life. It really comes full circle once you think about it, that this all derives from the same point, when Kaneki met Rize and they had that exchange underneath the steel cold beams. But what really drives this point home is when Rize asks Kaneki the question, do you hate me? Because this is a great callback to part 1 with chapter 116, when Kaneki was able to confront Rize, even though she was in that hunger-stricken state and could not coherently respond to him. In that moment, Kaneki could not bring himself to say, I hate you for what you have done to me. And Rize has to bring that question back up yet again, but she responds by saying, you know, I regret ever meeting you, Kaneki. If I never met you, I would not have suffered the fate I am currently in right now. So, do you still feel the same way? Do you hate me? And Kaneki in this situation still feels the same way that he felt back in chapter 116 in part 1. Because if Kaneki never met Rize, he would have led a much different life, and who knows if that life would have been better or worse. And even though he had to go through tragedy, hardship, and have that feeling of wanting to die inside, he would have to give up all of those happy memories with Toka, with Hinami, with Tsukiyama, with Nishiki, with everyone he has met in his life. He would not have those happy moments anymore. So he replies to Rize, I don't hate you. I was happy. And the sky opens up again, and we have more reigning men women, children, all these people start falling down into the sea, and Kaneki makes his decision. He jumps down into the water, he looks back to Rize and basically says, I'm going to try to bear my sins. I'm not going to stay in this fantasy. I'm going to confront, whether it is good or bad, the mistakes I have made, and I am going to push on and move forward. And even though he's swimming through the Tor-Ii gates, we have one last savage remark from Rize where she says, I see. Well, watching you drown should also be quite interesting. If that is in fact the final line we get from Rize in Tokyo Ghoul, it is a savage line. But just getting to see Kaneki swimming through the Tor-Ii gates, going from the profane state of mind to sacred, this is really going to show that this is going to be a new transition for Kaneki, but he is not changing personas. This is the one true Kaneki I am hoping that we are getting, that this will be a positive change rather than a negative change. And judging by the recent news that we are now in the final arc of Tokyo Ghoul Re, and there's no word right now of a part 3 or of a continuation, I have a feeling that we are leading to a positive change for Kaneki, but I am very curious right now just to see how Kaneki will end up getting out of the dragon state. And what I am going to guess right now is that once Kaneki starts getting out of the dragon Kagane, that is the moment when he will see Toka basically reaching out a hand, basically saying grab on, and the two will link arms, and Toka will basically get Kaneki out of dragon. Anyway, guys, that is my review on chapter 159. We had a very big moment for Kaneki's character in this chapter. Very enjoyable chapter, but overall, I am very curious to see where we go moving forward from here because we are currently in the final arc of Tokyo Ghoul Re. How many more chapters do we have until we reach the end? Will there be a continuation? There are going to be a lot of questions right now, but as it stands, I am just curious to see what the next chapter is going to bring. So I definitely want to hear from you guys. Leave your thoughts, theories, and speculations down in the comments below on where you think we're going to go next chapter. And also, guys, if you want to keep up with news or just with me talking about Tokyo Ghoul outside of YouTube, definitely follow me on Twitter. I'll leave a link in my description box below. I have a lot of fun talking about Tokyo Ghoul, as many of you guys might already know, but it's just so enjoyable. I love this series, and it's actually very, very sad just to know that this is coming to an end because I have been reading this for 3 years now. It's been a long time. Some of you guys have been around since the beginning, but I came in around the beginning of Re, catching up with the series, and I've enjoyed it ever since. Such an enjoyable series, and I'm really curious to see how this all ends and unfolds. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Definitely catch a video that I made about the ending of Tokyo Ghoul. I'll leave a link somewhere on the screen. But until my next Tokyo Ghoul related video, I'll talk with you guys later. Bye, guys.